I'm going to show you 5 gaps up, and those gaps are running with two patterns that are almost identical in all 5 examples. And this will give you a good idea of just kind of, you've heard me in the past identify or say that patterns repeat themselves. And it's just like we took those in the past. You may have heard me talk about we take 10 examples and 2 of them end up being nice green candles, and the other 8 are not. And so we take the conditions of those 2 green candles and we copy those. We identify those conditions, and then when we get involved in the acquisition of that pattern in another stock, we verify that it has those conditions, and then we get very similar results to what we had in the past. And so this is an example of how that works. I've got in these 5 examples here, the first one I'm in HMNY, and the vertical green line is August 14th, 2017, and the last trading day here is August 24th. So you can see that about 10 days ago is when this occurred. The 2 patterns that I'm identifying are trend red has crossed over trend green, and they are both above the trio, yellow, pink, blue. Green and red are above yellow, pink, blue. And the other pattern is power pink has crossed over power orange. Those are the 2 primary patterns that I'm talking about in these examples. I'm specific about green and red both being above the trend red and trend green are both above the trend trio. In there when this occurs, we get a small green candle. Also, it doesn't happen all the time, but power Zion is up and power pink is down. Note also that in this particular case, Zip Zion is at 62. Usually or not usually, but oftentimes it can be higher, but I want you to note that Zip Zion is above 50. We usually put the line at 60 and say anything above 60 works well. We want Zip Zion high because that means there's a lot of people starting to get into the market. The second one I'm going to show you is NEFF. Again, trend red and green trend red is crossed over green, and both of them are above the blue, pink, yellow trio. In this case here, power red crossed over a couple of days ago, crossed over the power orange line. But on the vertical green line today, power pink has crossed over the power orange line. And again, it's the power pink crossover and the trend red and green crossover with red and green above the trio. In this case over here, we find that again, Zip Zion is Swing Zion is up and Swing Pink is down. That's a big divergent move, and Zip Zion is at 84 now. Zip Green's at 100, but the point is everything is moving up. In the third example, we have trend red and green crossing over each other, and both of them are above the trend trio. We have on the vertical green line day, power red has also crossed over 0 when power pink crossed over 0. That makes for a good combination of the situation. In the example over here in the swing chart, Swing Pink and Swing Zion are both up. They're not divergent, but they're both above 0. And again, the placement of where they are is significant because being above 0, Swing Zion again is one of your price barometers, and Swing Pink is a leading indicator telling you which direction prices are moving. And we find that in this example, Zip Zion is at 83. So again, Zip Zion is real high. Note also that Zip Yellow has crossed over the 50 line, is going up. That's a good indication as well. I'm not sure. This is the one before that. Yeah, Zip Zion was, Zip Yellow was up at 93. So Zip Yellow is really high in this case, and that's an important issue to remember. Whenever it crosses over 50 or it's riding high like that, it's always a good sign for continuation of at least the next day up. In this case here we have a gap because we had the power pink crossover power orange and the power red crossed over the power green, and both of them are above the three trio lines, blue, pink, and yellow. The fourth example, again, red and green are above the trio. The trend red has crossed over the green, so this is the crossover day of the Sky Touch. Power red went way up. We had a pretty decent green candle here on this day, and of course this is the day that power pink again crossed over zero. In the swing chart, we have Zion highest and pink right under it, both above zero. We have Zip Yellow cross over zero, and Zip Red is highest again in this example, and Zip Zion is 67 in this example. And of course, one other thing I'll point out to you on this example here is that the day before, Zip Red was at 44. On the vertical green line day, Zip Red is at 92. So it jumped 48 points, just about 50 points today, and the price obviously went up, but it wasn't that significant, or at least it isn't, you know, in my mind it's not that significant, but it's a decent sized candle. But remember, the location of where Zip Red is key. When it hits 100, when it hits 50 points, when it's above 90, and it also has a long indicator line length, then it typically reacts well going up. It also, when it's over 90, almost always goes down the next day, but the price goes up. Because why? Because red is highest. It also is a leading indicator, and green is under it. So what is happening is that the masses of people haven't identified with the fact that this indicator, this stock is now going up. It hasn't caught up to the general population. If you look over here to this example, I'll take and I'll put a vertical line over here. In this case, here the vertical line is on the peak, but the vertical line, it's on the peak with Zip Red. And the day before the pink vertical line, Zip Red was at 80, and now on the pink vertical line, Zip Red is at 100. So I use this example because Zip Red is above 90, but it only went up 20 points. And obviously it doesn't have other it doesn't have the other things that go along with it. So yeah, we get a little bit of a climb the day after the pink vertical line, but nothing like we got when we have the primary conditions that we're talking about, meaning the power pink crossover power orange and the trend red crossover the trend green. That's the start of an uptrend that I've commented on other videos about. And also that red and green are both above the yellow, pink, blue lines. You can also note the difference in the difference. Red and green, trend red is at 46 and trend green is at 8. So it went up 38 points. The day before, trend red was at 29 and trend green was at 20, so that's 9. So there's a difference of 9 in 38, and that's about 4 times. And if you recall the diff separation divergent relationships, it's after 3 times the difference. So in other words, you take the day before, red and green were 9 points apart, and now they're 38 points spread between the two lines, and 9 times 4 is 36, so it's 4x times, or the separation between the two lines is 4 times. And that doesn't tell you anything about whether it's going to gap or not the next day. It has a strong indication because of the big separation. We use 3x as that separation. When you're looking at diff separation issues, they normally are occurring within the trend red versus trend green lines, or the zip red line and its relationship or individual relationship in the movement. And there are obviously we also compare zip red with zip gray in that calculation to determine things. The day before, let's just run it or talk about it. Zip red is 44 and zip gray is 31, so there is a 13 difference spread. On the vertical line day, zip red is at 92 and zip gray is at 92. So we are literally even. The two indicators are even. So it doesn't tell us anything about the diff spread on this day between red and gray. But what it does tell us is that with red above 92, we highly suspect that the red line will go down, but that the price will go up. And that's because red moved 40 or 50 points. It had a large line length movement, and its location was above 90. And so when that combination happens, usually zip red goes down and usually the price goes up. So that's just a piece of supporting evidence that will tell us that there's going to be a movement up. But that piece of evidence is extremely powerful when you're dealing with gaps, because it's just those tiny little things that tell us about gaps. Also on the vertical green line day, zip Zion, I said that, it's at 67. I forgot about that. The last one I'm going to show you is a little bit different, but it has a big green candle the next day, and it does gap up. This is actually over here 2 days before the vertical green line is the crossover day when trend red crossed over green. But it was on the vertical green line day that was the day that it bumped up against the 100 moving average, the long dash white line, and in this case, excuse me, in this case here, your pink, oops, I gotta move this so I can read it. In this case here, your pink, power pink line was at minus 0.17. Power orange is at minus 0.11. Power green is at minus 0.15. And power white is 1.3, and yellow is minus 0.135. So yellow being the lowest at 3.5, pink being the next lowest at 1.7, then green at 1.5, and then blue is at 0.136 and white is at 0.134. So those two are real close together. And then of course power Zion is above 0. Again, we've got that that location difference that is key. By that I mean zip Zion is on one side of the power orange line, of the power 4 lines, with power orange separating the two. And we treat that when Zion is separated between the power 4 lines, we look at that as a divergent location condition. Because in the proximity group, when we're looking at gaps, we need location identification and shape identification of the indicators. And also on the other situation with the swing chart, we have swing Zion that has gone up above 0 and swing pink that's gone up, but it's under 0. And so this, from the perspective of seeing what is likely to happen, we can see that power pink is right under 0. It's about ready to go up. We're in a sky touch. In all likelihood, we're going to continue up because you got your trend trio, blue, pink, and yellow have turned and have started going up. So the overall short-term trend is to go up, and with red and green above the trio, it's very helpful that will continue to go up next day. Now, it obviously wasn't a very strong gap, but it's also the power pink did not cross over the orange. Power pink was under the orange, but we had some significant relationships here in our understanding. One of them that I'll point out is power pink is down here at its low point. Remember when I've talked before that if power yellow does not continue to go up, the price will not go up. And so even though pink has been above yellow all of this time, yellow has continued to go up with pink and not gone sideways or down. When yellow goes sideways or down, then the price is real spotty or goes down. So again, just some key elements to this type of example that I've been talking about. It's a combination pattern. It's two patterns that are running together, and with those two patterns running together, we get some really nice movements.